I'm Adam Pascarella, and welcome to episode 13 of The Power of Bold. What's up, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to this latest episode of The Power of Bold. I'm really glad that you're here. It's been a while since our last podcast, so I appreciate your patience. For this episode, you're in for a real treat. I recently spoke with Coss Marte, who is the founder of Body in New York City. Coss has a fascinating story. He grew up in New York, specifically the Lower East Side, became a drug kingpin when he was in his late teens and early 20s, and went to prison for several years. After serving his time, where he lost over 70 pounds in 6 months, Coss started Body, which hires former incarcerated individuals to teach fitness classes to busy New Yorkers. Now, when I first heard Coss's story, I was floored, and I knew that I had to get him on the podcast. During this interview, we talk about Coss's background, the height of his drug empire, life in prison, why former prisoners struggle to get jobs, and how he bounced back from a life of crime to start Body. So with that said, let's get to the interview. I'm super excited to welcome Coss Marte to the podcast. Coss has an incredible story. He grew up on the Lower East Side of Manhattan in New York City. As a teenager and into his early 20s, he became a drug kingpin, at one point overseeing an empire making over $2 million per year. All of that ended in 2009, though, when he was arrested and sentenced to 7 years in prison. While he was in prison, he started working out and creating his own exercise routines in his cell, which allowed him to lose over 70 pounds in 6 months. In prison, he also participated in a program called Defy Ventures that helps incarcerated individuals start businesses. He ultimately received funding from Defy Ventures for an idea to start a fitness company that teaches students the workouts that he developed in prison. That turned into Body, which is a fitness company that hires formerly incarcerated individuals to help New Yorkers get into shape. So, Coss, thanks so much for being on The Power of Bold.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Cool. So I wanted to kind of start out by discussing your childhood and growing up on the Lower East Side. So I've lived in New York for some years now, and I can already see how quickly the city changes. So can you talk a little bit about growing up in New York and what life was like in the Lower East Side when you were a kid?
Lower East Side was a different world. Growing up at that time, it was a very drug-infested neighborhood. It was heroin lines, like, everywhere. It was, guns and shots you hear, over the night, and prostitution. I mean, it was just like a jungle. It's like Welcome to the Jungle song.
Right.
It was a different world. It was just a totally different world. I mean, going down, on my way to school, I would just see people lining up on my block to buy heroin, and it'll be like a line of like 50 to 100 people, and it'll be people in my personal building selling the drugs, hanging out there. And some of them were family members as well,
Right. So yeah, very, very challenging environment and much different than nowadays. Now you have wine bars on on every corner down there. So so what were you really interested in when you grew up? Like, what were your passions?
My passion was baseball. I would wake up every morning, go to the park, during our school breaks and stuff, and we didn't have a baseball field, so we would spray paint a diamond in Roosevelt Park, where they have a soccer field now, when the grass is green. But it was just straight concrete turf. We would slide and rip our jeans there, and we used to play stickball, get a mop stick, or and a rubber handball, and just have fun. That was my ambition when I was a kid. But I also wanted money. you know,
Mm-hmm.
and every time I would ask my mom, you know, I need this or I want this, she would, you know, always mention the fact that she didn't have enough money to get it. Uh, so that really started motivating me to start hustling myself. I mean, as a kid, I would, you know, collect any cents I'd find in the streets or my building, and then I would collect bottles and cans and trade them in the store in the bodega for nickels, and that was my lunch money, you know.
Yeah, and so when you were little, you thought of yourself almost as a businessman already, and then you had these
I
side
didn't,
paths.
yeah, I didn't think of myself as a businessman. I thought about getting money. That was it. I didn't even know what business was. I'm talking about when I was like 5, 6 years old, and I was
All
like
right.
staying up in the street, you know, doing dumb stuff. But the people that were babysitting me were basically the guys in the corner and, you know, people in the neighborhood, you know, that was already involved selling drugs and stuff like that. So
Yeah, and then your ultimate goal was becoming a baseball player. Were you a Yankees or Mets fan?
Yankees all the way.
Yankees. Same here.
Yeah.
Same here. And so as you're getting into high school and kind of your teenage years, what's going on then? Are you still hustling? You're still doing all of those things?
I mean, when I was going to like junior high is when everything started. You know, I started smoking weed, and I was known as like the kid that could get the weed in school. Um, so people would collect money and tell me, "Yo, go buy this, or go buy that," and it became like a supply and demand for me. And then I
Mm-hmm.
realized that, you know, I could sell this instead of like making these trips, buying the stuff, going over here to smoke. I mean, I could get the product and have it prepared for my classmates. Um, and then I started working for somebody at that time when I was started selling coke and crack at 14, 13 years old. Um, and I was out there day and night. You know, that was my
Mm-hmm.
life.
Were you interested at school at the time, or more was it just about these this hustle that you had?
No, I was definitely interested in school.
Yeah.
I, I don't know. School was easy for me. Like I learned everything really quickly, so I felt like I didn't have to pay attention. You know, um, I don't
Right.
know. Yeah, I felt like everybody was trying to catch up with me, and I don't know. I did really well in my grades, and I thought I knew it all.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then so you're going up through junior high and then high school. You continue dealing drugs, and then so what at what point did you kind of have your own operation? How did that come about?
That was around 16, 17 years old. I started working for this guy, you know, like I mentioned before, who basically ran the corner of Eldridge and Broome back in the day, and I basically inherited the corner when he left. He basically like retired from the game, we call it the drug game, um, and I took control and I started hustling and I started having my friends that were standing on the corner hustle for me, and that's when the operation started. And there was one time when I caught a case. I was about 16. And I was getting stopped every single day for the way I dressed, the way I looked.
Mm-hmm.
I would wear baggy jeans, a backwards hat, a do rag. You know, I looked like a typical drug dealer that was standing on the corner doing up to no good. But I caught a case, and I realized when I was going to court, I dressed up nice and I dressed up in a suit, and nobody was stopping me anymore. Nobody even realized who I was. So I had everybody in my team. When I was 17, I had everybody in my team wear business suit ties, you know, and I made 10,000 business cards with my
Huh.
friend Joey, and we gave it out to every person we thought that used drugs. And this was the time like the whole neighborhood was like really gentrifying.
Mm-hmm.
So our target market was the hipsters, and we would go to Wall Street and sit in a bar and just like start a conversation with people and hand out a 24-hour drug delivery service cards. And from there, it blew up.
Wow. And so you're at 17. How big is your team? How big of a team are you running?
At that time, maybe, I don't know, 7, 8 people.
And that just came naturally to you? Do you think you're a natural leader and it was just easy?
I think I'm a natural motivator. It was basically like, so how it worked. I mean, I had my friends who were like just hanging out, smoking weed on the corner, just not doing anything. And I would get frustrated at the fact that they was like just wasting their life, wasting their time. And I was like, I'm so busy, I couldn't handle the demand.
Mm-hmm.
So I started using them. I started, telling them, like, go here, go there, and giving them a cut. And then we created a better operation, right, where we started giving out packages. And we had a dispatcher, and we had, I had a vehicle connect where I was getting all my friends' vehicles for a really low price. And we just started making deliveries. And then from there, I guess it was just like me pushing out hard work and showing people the opportunity that was out there, and convincing them to take advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah, so you're saying that one of your best motivating tactics was basically just sharing your vision with them. Like, oh, you can make it to this point, just work with me, follow me, and do what I say, and we'll get to that point. Is that right?
And I was like, what the fuck is you doing on this corner, wasting your fucking life? Like, get this fucking money, bullshit around, and just get it, and that was it. Like, I would have arguments and I would demand, and then they realized that there was a lot of money, and then became more happy and started getting more stuff, and they just saw how real it was.
Right. And like I said in my intro, at the peak of your drug dealing career, you were making about $2 million per year. So what was life like at that point? Like, was it just exhilarating or thrilling? I'm sure it was.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. I mean, it was. Don't get me wrong. I was having fun. I was, doing a lot of dumb stuff, spending a lot of money on nothing. Like, I remember one time Joey and I spent like $5,000 on a horse and carriage from Central Park to, sell drugs on a horse and carriage.
Really?
And we started bringing it to the block in the Lower East Side. So imagine a horse and carriage is coming around like Delaney and Essex where the McDonald's is, and we're ordering like food for the horse. It was just dumb stuff like that. But I mean, we had fun, but at that time, at a certain time, I would say like 20, 21, things started feeling corporate-y. It was like I was not touching the drugs anymore. Everything was just being, I was collecting and stuff. I was not in the streets anymore. I was just operating like a corporation. It was not a startup anymore. So when it was when I was out there in the grind and in the hustle, it was extremely fun. Because I don't know, you just get a different feeling. And then when you're like just sitting back, just collecting, it feels like a corporate company, and you're like, oh, I gotta sit in this cubicle again. It felt like that.
Yeah. And did you foresee doing this forever, or did you have something else that you wanted to do at the time?
No, I definitely wanted to transition, and we were talking about transitioning to owning our own businesses and creating some type of company. And we actually did create an entity, but I really don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So at this time, were you kind of concerned about the risks, or did you suspect that you were maybe on the road to getting caught?
No, I felt like I was never going to get caught. And it's difficult to get out because it just becomes a routine. It's like you have I had 7 cell phones and all these phones are ringing and just going crazy, and you just need a supply and demand, and you can't just shut off the phones and like disappear and leave 20 somewhat people without jobs.
Mm-hmm.
It just became like a necessary routine. But I wasn't afraid. I didn't think I was gonna get caught. Um, I thought things were running really smoothly. I was basically just collecting money. You know, everything is going fine. I mean, things with running a business or doing anything like that, you have your up and downs.
Right. Yeah, and so at that point, you were, like you were saying, you were kind of dissatisfied with how corporate it was becoming. But ultimately, you have this empire, but then you get arrested by the cops. I think this was in 2009. So how did that
Yeah.
exactly happen?
So federal agents had a warrant for the stash house I had in the Bronx. I was this is how it went down. Had this dispatcher. We had all these phones. He was making a lot of money. I had him in a condominium on the Upper West Side. Had a vehicle for her, and like he was straight and set. But he decided to be greedy and start up another phone. This other phone, he created another business card, started giving it out to my clients and giving out other different type of work. So a lot of clients were calling me. Well, one client in particular called me and was like, this guy's giving out a different card. Do you know about this number? I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And he's saying like, the stuff he's giving out is different. So I basically contacted that number I got from one of my clients who I knew from a while ago. He had my personal number, so I contacted that number. I hear my dispatcher pick up. I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? Why the fuck are you using his phone? He was like, no, I could explain, blah, blah, blah. So I should just shut off the phone. I went to one of my contacts that I had in the cell phone world, and we just converted all the numbers that he had, and I took that number, and we continued operating. He basically got fired. He actually ran away with a lot of work and a lot of money for me. But anyway, he disappeared, and I continued operating the phone that he started with, and I started using that phone, and that phone was being tapped by federal agents. And I kept sending, at that time I was just doing all the calls myself, and I was back on the grind, and that's how we got caught. Federal agents basically tapped that phone, started that night. It was a Thursday night, and I had an easel board in my room, and I was writing down the names and where they were calling from, and it was just like a whole operation.
Yeah.
And then people were and this is when we were sending people through like walkie-talkies, the next cell, when it was going beep, beep,
right.
So I hit up one of my guys, the drivers, and I'm like, hey, where you at? And it just kept going beep, beep. So I started continually hitting up other people, sending them over to the clients, and they were just getting caught one at a time. So they arrested 10 of them. And they didn't catch everybody because it was just a different shift. But yeah, it was it all went down like that, and I was the last person they caught. So they tapped my phone. They knew where I was at, which location I was at. They came, raided the house. I was actually coming out of the house, and I decided that I was going to make the deliveries myself. And as soon as I opened up my car door, this tall white guy, so this is Detective Joseph King. He said, "This is Drug Enforcement Agent Detective King. Your whole operation is shut down." And I turn around and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in the middle of the Bronx where there's like only Puerto Ricans and blacks." I'm like, "What the fuck is he doing here?"
Yeah.
and I turn around and try to run away from him. As soon as I turned around, I didn't even take a step to run. Just about a dozen officers come and knock me down to the ground and on top of my car actually, and I had a warrant, went in the house, found all the drugs, and it was over.
Yeah. And then, so what were you thinking at that point immediately when you got arrested and were sent to jail? What was going through your mind?
It was, I don't know, it was like a movie.
Yeah.
The detective, one of the detectives takes my BMW. I had a convertible drop top, hard top M3. He puts down the top. They stick me in a van, and he starts riding beside me, and just laughing, smiling, like driving my convertible downtown, and they take me to the PSA 4, this precinct on the Avenue C. And when I'm in there, they start clapping. Like they got me, and I'm like, shit, and it was over there. And when I get to the precinct, they're interrogating all the guys. They have all the guys and one girl in different cells, so we couldn't really communicate with each other except for like screaming across the cells. But they started interrogating everybody. One guy basically told them everything, and that was it. They actually that was not it. So they take my wallet away, and they take my wallet. They close all my accounts, my bank accounts, and all that stuff. But in my wallet, I had 10 pieces of acid, and I decided to take 10 pieces of acid while I was in the precinct.
Oh, really?
And I started tripping balls, and I get sent to the interrogation room, and I just start laughing my ass off. And the DA is already there. They already have like a secret indictment on us, and he's like, you're facing a life or 24 years, and I'm like, I'll take 25 years. I don't give a fuck. Like, give me all the time. And I just started laughing, and they was like, why the hell are you laughing? And I was like, you motherfuckers gave me acid. They just threw me back in the cell, and I was just tripping there.
Yeah.
And the judge was like, once I get in front of the judge was like, what? How are you still high? And I'm like, smiling, like, yay, crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy. And so then after you're arrested, you're sentenced to prison for 9 years, I believe. And then you go to a prison that's located near Albany, New York, a little bit upstate. And so when you get there, what's going through your mind at that point?
So I guess that took 7 years, but I was in Rikers Island for about a year fighting my case, and then I get sent upstate. And when I get upstate, it was just a revolving door. It was not the first time I was up there, so for me, it was just like, back into survival mode, and you got to do what you got to do when you get up there. But that's when I found out. After I went to the medical unit, so as soon as you get up there, they take your blood work and they test, your physical exams, and I found out that my cholesterol levels are so high that I could probably die of a heart attack within 5 years if I continue living that life inside prison. And I was like, I'm not dying in this place. And as soon as they told me that, I went right back to my cell and started doing dips and push-ups on the side of my bed, jumping jacks, and I passed out in 5 minutes, and I was like, fuck that, I'm not doing this shit ever again.
Yeah, right.
And the next morning, I just lay there, and I looked at the ceiling of my cell, and I was like, I can't die in this place. I need to leave. And that motivated me. I went out to the yard and started running laps. And people would call me Fat Forrest Gump and all these fat honey bun jokes. And I would just continue running and run. Sometimes, giving them the middle finger, and then eventually I lost 70 pounds in 6 months, and that's how I did it, just running in the yard, doing my routines in my cell, and kept my head focused and getting my life back physically. But mentally, I was still in that mindset of making money and hustling. So the hustling didn't stop while I was in there. I mean, I was still running operations, as I said before. Like half of my team got caught, so things were still running, but way slower than they were before. But things were still running, and I just continued doing what I had to do. Even hustling inside prison, selling weed in there.
Yeah.
I would make 5 gallons a week, sell $5 cups of hooch. Hooch is like fake alcohol we used to make.
Yeah.
And that's what we were making.
Huh.
Yeah.
So during that time, you're working out. You lose 70 pounds over 6 months, which is amazing, and you're also hustling on the side. Can I ask you about how you actually lost the weight? So how did you develop the exercise routines that ultimately you use in your current business? Was it just mostly by trial and error, or was it something else?
So I basically took exercises that I learned from my previous incarceration. I went through this program called SHOCK. SHOCK incarceration is a prison where you save more time. So I was sentenced to 3 years when I was 18. But I did 6 months in this program to save my time. And it's basically ran by ex-Marines turned correctional officers, and they beat the crap out of you. They make you work out a few hours a day. And I took those exercises that I learned from that program and combined them with exercises that I learned from guys who've done 20, 30 years, and just did it.
Yeah.
Just made it and came up with my whole routine.
That's great. And I'd also like to ask you just about prison itself. I think that lots of people have an idea of what it's like, or they have an idea of the type of people that are in there, but their assumptions may be a little misguided. So what do you think people don't really understand about prison or incarcerated individuals? Like what are the most common incorrect assumptions out there?
I mean, the most common incorrect assumptions is that we're locked up caged animals that are raping and killers, and first of all, rape doesn't happen in prison. Like, nobody's gonna drop the soap and kick your butt. That's all bullshit. That was stuff that happened in the 80s and 90s. That's not things that happen now. That's one huge misconception. On top of that, like, people are just there to do their time and go home. There are things that, I mean, I've seen people get stabbed and cut and all that stuff, but for the most part, everybody's just trying to do their time and get back home to their family. Everybody, it's just a whole different world. You are in survival mode, but mostly focus on, getting away from the jail politics and just doing the right thing to get out. That's what people are actually doing. I mean, I go to a lot of prisons across the country now, and speak, and everything's the same, man. We're just actual human beings that did something wrong at a very early age and got stuck in the system, and that's stuck in a system that's still really difficult to escape.
Yeah, just trying to do your time, just trying to get out as quickly as possible. And we also hear stories about you and others who have been incarcerated but have really great business minds. So why do you think there are so many good entrepreneurs in prison?
Yes, I think people make amazing entrepreneurs in prison, but I don't think everybody's an entrepreneur. It's very difficult um, to do, and it's a lot of freaking work. Um, but I think we have the time to sit down and think and just think about different ideas and just execute in it. You know, we can't actually execute in inside as much as we could outside, but in the outside, people just get caught up in their day to day, 9 to 5, have nothing else to do.
Mm-hmm.
But inside, we execute in different type of ways. We're forced to, you know, again go in survival mode. Like there's a thing called juggling in prison. Like if you it's like loan sharking basically. Like if you give somebody a can of peanut butter, you expect another 2 cans of peanut butter back. You know, and that's the juggle, and
Mm.
that's part of a hustle. You're making 100% profit, um, and that's part of just and there's things that we do that are innovative. Creating a lighter with a wire and a battery, and making a frying pan with a plastic hot pot. Come up with stuff.
Right. And so, sorry, little sirens in the background here. But
Yeah.
while you were in prison, you also participated in this program called Defy Ventures. And so, can you just talk about that and why you decided to participate?
So I didn't participate in the five ventures when I was in prison. I actually started. Was aware of the program while I was outside.
Oh, okay.
The program didn't exist yet while I was inside. It was working with people that was coming back into the system and readapting back into society. So I got involved with the program through a series of nonprofits. When I came out, I for the first time when I came home, I felt like I needed help, and I never humbled myself and accepted the fact that I needed to reach out and ask for help. I was never a beggar. I was just a doer.
Mm-hmm.
There was these programs that I took advantage. I went through. At first went to parole and got involved with Fortune Society. As I got involved with Fortune Society, another prison reform program, they had this internship program, and in order to get the internship program, we needed to go on this interview for the internship. But they referred us to this other program called Career Girl that gives you a business suit to go on your first job interview. And I went to Career Gear, and they gave me this, basically like $1,000 theory suit, and it just fit perfectly. And I was like, awesome. And they said if you were going to get the suit, come back to one of our workshops. And I was like, hell yeah. And I went back to one of the workshops, and I sit there and I hear this program, the Five Ventures, being spoke by but two guys that were, one that was part of the program and one that was a staff member there. And it was Jose and Ryan that basically said, look, if we have resources for you guys who want to start up a business, want to come up with a business idea and execute on it. The program is called the Five Ventures, and we actually get you funding for it. And they said you can obtain up to $100,000 in microloans through the program. And I said, sign me the F up, and I took advantage of it, and from there, just did it. The program was extremely difficult. Like, it's more than 20 hours a week. And just classroom. So it's Catherine Hope, who's the founder and CEO of the program. She would sit down with us in the class and bring volunteers and bring professors from MBA professors from Harvard and Stanford and teaches these business skills, and they noted that we have the transferable skills to become actual business people. Um, and I did it. I trust their process, and as I trusted their process, things started developing from it. More opportunities, more doors started opening, and I just executed.
Yeah, it's awesome. And so was Conbody, was that your first idea when you were participating, or did you have any other ideas floating around?
I had other ideas, but Conbody was something I was already doing. So the first day I came home, um, even before joining the program, I just went up to random people in the park and started telling them about running this fitness workout program in the park. I took this dirty old piece of pipe and stuck in between fences, and in the same park that I grew up in, I used to play stickball at, and started doing pull-up bar training and doing these calisthenic and cardio workouts, and I just did it, and it started progressing there. I started gathering a group of people, and I started doing like hand-to-hand transactions where I was just collecting money, paying no taxes, not creating an entity. But I didn't know that I had to until until I got into the Defy program, and they said, "Look, you need to do it the right way."
Right.
And that was my first idea that I brought to the program, and I also had a couple other ideas. But yeah, that was my first go-to business idea.
So how did you really scale it up from that point? So you have the idea, you're kind of giving lessons in the park, but how did you really go about like hiring people and building the business up?
I mean, things just came organically. As I started doing the workouts in the park, the winter started coming by, and I needed somewhere to continue the workouts inside, and I started doing these workouts in these in this ballet studio, basically.
Mm-hmm.
From that ballet studio, the room started getting packed. I couldn't even fit one person in there. I mean, it took at least like a year before I started seeing that, but I was just continuously going every single day, and I was renting these rooms for like $40. And people were spending like $25 for class. So I was getting like 20 people to do that, and it just started getting so overwhelming. I couldn't fit anybody. And then I was doing this side hustle on the side. I had a lot of side hustle. I was doing housekeeping while I was scrubbing toilets, and cleaning people's apartments, and on top of that, I was doing this internship where I was helping people, conduct their resumes, and I was sitting down developing resumes for people, and this individual called Sultan Malik sits at my desk and asked me, can I help him with his resume? And he wanted me to tailor it as a fitness trainer. He said, I just came home from prison like 3 months ago. I have like 5 people in the park that I'm working now. I want to tailor my resume to be a fitness group instructor. And I was like, oh, really? And I started asking him more about prison. And he was like, why are you asking me all these questions about prison? I was like, well, I just came home not too long, about a year ago. And I handed him my business card over the desk. I said, hit me up. And he showed up that night to the fitness classes, and he was like, wow, I want to be a part of this. So I quickly rented him a room, and his room started getting super packed, and my room started getting packed, and it was like, we need help, we need extra assistance, and we need our own space. So at that time, we started raising money, raising funds to, get our own HQ, our own headquarters, it was really difficult because nobody wanted to rent us because of our past, and primarily because I would pitch landowners my idea of bringing 4 million cars to individuals into space, and they're like, "What the fuck? Well, that's not gonna work."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, it's ex-cons and us," and then they were like, "I don't know." And I mean, the door was just shut in my face over 2 dozen times.
Mm-hmm.
It was it was it was a hard process on looking for real estate, but eventually we found a space and came back into full circle. Um, I bumped into this friend who was a real estate agent, and I was complaining to her that I couldn't find a space. And she found 2 listings for me, one on Clinton Street that I really didn't like, and I was like, I don't know if it's going to work here. And then she found a space that was on Broome and Eldridge, and it was like the dirty, rundown old basement with the toilet flips upside down. And I said it was perfect.
Yeah.
It was perfect because it had that dungeon prison looking feeling that I wanted, and it was even more perfect because it was right on the corner where I started selling drugs at, where I got locked up at.
Yeah.
And now where the business is at, and it came back into a full circle there.
Exactly. And that's a really interesting story, especially just because you had a business, you had a great idea, but people were still shutting the door on you, and it sounds like that was partly due to just your past, and it seems like a lot of ex-prisoners go through this sort of situation. And so, like, from your perspective, how can we remove some of the barriers that formerly incarcerated individuals face when they return to society, as far as like getting jobs and being reintegrated?
Yeah, I know. We had this huge movement about banning the box, which means on every job application, every home or rental application, it says, "Have you ever been convicted of a felony?" And you have to check that box, yes or no. I know the ban already happened for employment status, but I think the primary problem is that you could just Google somebody's name and their case just shows up.
Mm-hmm.
That is not avoidable. That is something that we need to reach out to Google and Bing and all these search engines to help us not have that information out there. Because I mean, when I'm hiring somebody or when anybody's hiring somebody, the first thing they do is just search that person's name.
Sure.
And what's going to show up is that person's case. I mean, my case and my name, my court cases and all that stuff shows up probably on like page 10 now because I've gotten so much media and pushed it back so back that it doesn't really show up. But when I first came home, that was a problem.
Yeah. Right. And yeah, so I would do the same thing too. If I was going to hire someone, I would search on Google or look at their social media presence. And yeah, it seems like a major impediment.
Yeah.
And as far as just your business itself, do you see like any similarities in the way that you ran your drug empire to how you run Conbody today? Obviously, besides the illegal activity and everything.
Yeah, it was definitely. I mean, the only difference I see is that I'm paying taxes now.
Yeah.
And same thing, managing people, paying people, and just dealing with sales and creating a great product that want to continuously attract people and market and branding and it's exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, like, what's the ultimate vision for Conbody? Do you see yourself working like in the fitness space for the foreseeable future, or maybe something else way down the road?
Yeah, I mean, we have multiple avenues that we want to tackle. One thing is that we want to, instead of like growing out a lot of business locations and growing out comedy in different places, like we really want to hit that market and open up brick and mortars, but we also want to tackle the fitness videos online. So we currently just launched a Kickstarter not too long ago where you could virtually work out with your favorite ex-con for $5 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to like tackle that and become like the next, T25 insanity and make it a prison sanity and workout videos and we hit that market running. And I feel like we could really create a movement to do so, and it'll give me more opportunities to hire more people. And on top of that, we have another component where we're training the inmates inside, being paid by correctional facilities now to, train these women and men to become certified trainers. So we could create a direct pipeline from the inside out. And that's one goal that we're working on. And on top of that, it just comes with a lot of baggage. I mean, I get people that I hire who are living in shelters, who are homeless, who are dealing with so many other problems that I have to help them with. I've had people sleeping in my couch. I had people who are hungry and I have to feed them. It's a huge problem. And where problem comes, I feel like it's an opportunity to fix it. And that's what we're doing.
Exactly, and that sounds like a super inspiring vision. You've got a lot on the road ahead of you here. And I'd kick myself if I didn't ask you this last question here. So, as like a slender guy in my upper 20s, how do I build a six-pack?
I mean, you have to come to Comedy, and I'm not going to give you that secret sauce.
Yeah, that's good. That's good right there.
We will give you that prison body you've always desired.
That sounds good. And so where can people get in touch with you? What's the best way?
You can hit us up on Instagram at Combody, Facebook, message us, or even email us at info@combody.com, or just come by the studio. We're located on 294 Broome Street. We also partnered up with Saks Fifth Avenue. Well, we opened up a location there. We're opening up a couple other locations soon. Very
cool. Well, Coss, thank you again so much for appearing on the podcast. We really appreciate it and appreciate you taking the time and sharing your story. So all the best of luck with Combody.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's it for this episode of The Power of Bold. As always, feel free to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, or any other podcast directory. We'd also really appreciate if you can submit a review on iTunes. If you'd like to access the show notes for this episode, head on over to thepowerofbold.com. So once again, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.